Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Joe. So this past weekend, my wife and I were out doing some car shopping. My wife's looking for a new car. So to backtrack, our daughter had a Chevy Equinox that broke down last winter while she was away at college, and it was a hand-me-down. My wife's brother passed it down to her, but the motor went, so we had to junk it. And we were looking to find her a new car, and then my wife decided, you know what, her car is, just past 100,000 miles. She also has a Chevy Equinox. It's a 2018, and we thought to ourselves, you know what, maybe we should hand down that car to our daughter and go find my wife a new car instead. So we were out car shopping, and we haven't bought anything yet. We have a couple options that we're sort of thinking over, but this brought me back to a year and a half ago when I purchased my Honda Ridgeline, and it just reminded me how much I hate to car shop. Absolutely hate it. I've bought several new cars in my lifetime. I'm 54 years old, and my first brand new car was a 1989 Oldsmobile Cutlass. That car got stolen. Then my next new car I didn't buy until 2000. It was a 2000 Chrysler Sebring convertible. That was a fun car. I kept it for a few years. And then I traded that when I bought my first piece of property, which was a rental property, and I bought a Chevy Avalanche. And I've since bought a couple of new Silverados, and now I'm in a Honda Ridgeline. Most of my car buying experiences went pretty uneventful. However, my last one, the Honda Ridgeline, was an absolute nightmare. I love the truck, but the car buying experience was absolutely horrible. And without going into detail, because it got so bad that it became a legal issue, and I had to sign a settlement agreement, which limits me on what I can actually tell you, like as far as details go. When I say details, I mean like I can't tell you the dealer, and I can't tell you like specifics that could be identifying specifics, but I'll give you a rundown on how the deal went and why it was such a bad experience. And then I'll give you some tips on what you can do to avoid it, because it was partly my fault, but it was mostly the dealer's fault. So let's back up to May of 2024. I had a 2017 Chevy Silverado, and for the months leading up to it, the transmission was like clunking, and it was hard shifting, and it got really, really bad, to the point where I brought it in, had a mechanic look at it. They told me, your transmission's on the way out. They even went as far as to tell me not to drive it anymore. They said, take it home and park it, and don't drive it again until you're ready to take it to its final resting place, is what they told me. So putting a new transmission in was going to cost like $6,000, and I didn't feel like it was worth it to me. So on a truck that was 7 or 8 years old, whatever it was, in 100,000 miles. So I decided to get rid of it. So I brought it to the Honda dealer, and I wanted to make a deal that day. I didn't want to drive the truck back home again because, like I said, the transmission was going. So I brought it to the dealer, and I made a deal to trade it in for my Honda Ridgeline. And I wanted to drive home in a Honda Ridgeline that day. So at the time I was looking, there was a stop sale order on Honda Ridgeline, so I was very limited on what I could pick, because there weren't any that were available for sale. There was like a recall that had to be corrected on all of the inventory before they could sell it. And so I actually got the only Honda Ridgeline that was available within a 500-mile radius of my home at the time. So anyways, so I go in and I sit down with the sales guy, and we discuss numbers, and we knew my transmission was going, and we knew I was coming up on a tire replacement, and so they lowballed me, which is fine, I understand. They lowballed me on the trade, and They offered me $18,000. And I looked at them knowing that I was in a bind and I needed a car immediately and I needed to drive away that night. I didn't want to get greedy, so I said, I'll tell you what, before we even came to the trade value, we discussed the purchase price of the truck. So we came to an agreement on the sale price of the new truck, and then we discussed the trade-in. They offered me $18,000. That was their initial trade. I knew that the trade value in good condition was anywhere from like 18.5. It was like 18,000 to like 21 and some change was the sort of like the trade range according to Kelley Blue Book. But again, knowing my transmission was gone and my tires needed replacement, I just countered. I just wanted to feel like I won, you know. So I said, I'll tell you what, if you can give me 18,500, I'll do a deal today. He went into his sales manager, came back and said, done deal, rubber stamped it. You know, he had a little worksheet with the numbers just scribbled down on it. They agreed to 18,500 trade. So I'm sitting there in real time texting my wife, telling her that I just made a deal for a new car, right? So I have text messages with my wife also. Hey, they just gave me 18.5 for my truck, blah, blah, blah. So this is going to be, telling you that is going to be relevant a little further into the story. So he goes into the finance guy. He comes back and he says, your monthly payments with the 18,500 trade are going to be somewhere in the $469 to $479 price range per month, financed. And I said, okay, you know, I need a new car, so it is what it is. I didn't actually pull out a calculator and try to calculate it myself. I just accepted that what he was telling me was accurate. You know, I was assuming he ran the numbers, put in the interest rate, came back and gave me an accurate monthly payment, you know. So it's time to go into the finance office, right? And now we're sitting down with the finance manager. Turns out the finance manager looks at my license, sees where the address on my license, it was my previous address. I hadn't swapped it over yet. And he says, oh, I grew up in that same town. And then we started chatting, and he's like, oh, do you know so-and-so and so-and-so? And he looked at my last name, and he says, hey, you're not related to Brian, are you? And I said, oh, my God, that's my younger brother. I should have known better now, because my younger brother is, he's the black sheep of the family that's always in trouble. So, anyways, he knew Brian. So he started rattling off all these other people that I knew from my childhood growing up. People I haven't seen in a long time. Turns out I knew his cousin. I grew up with his cousin. She's now a Boston police officer. And, you know, so we just got to chatting, and, you know, it became a very friendly conversation. We knew a lot of the same people. I feel like he used that to sort of, like, disguise what he was up to. He was up to some diabolical stuff now. So anyways, the sales manager comes to me and he says, hey, let's talk about, you know, extended warranties and this and that. And I was like, I don't want any of that stuff. And he's like, but I can make you some really good deals. And he's really pressuring me. He says, what if I could give you an extended warranty, and I can throw in the paint protection plan, and I can throw in a tire warranty plan and all this stuff. What if I can get you into that plan and it would only cost you another $18 a month? And I was like, nope, I don't want it. It's too much. And he's like, let me play with the numbers a little. He clickety-clack, you know. He's like, what if I can do it? I can do all of those things, and I can get it to you for an extra $10 a month. $10. And I'm like, thinking to myself, that's actually not a bad deal. You know, they're going to ceramic coat my truck, and they're going to give me a tire protection plan where if I get a blowout, you know, I get a new tire, blah, 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 and the extended warranty. And I was like, yeah, go ahead, do it. $10 a month, you know. So he's telling me, they initially said my payments were going to be $469 to $479 a month. Now I'm at like $489 a month, right? It's late. We're already there past business hours. It was like 10 o'clock at night at this point, right? So I just kind of scanned through it, and I signed the paperwork, and I got in my truck, and I drove away, and I went home, right? Here's where the fun starts. I get home the next day and I'm like, I'm going through the numbers a little more closely, and I'm like, he finagled the numbers a little, and he said I was getting 18.5 on my truck, but it only said 18 here, and we agreed to this price, but this, but it's not the same. The same agreement, sale price on the truck was different, and so, sorry, my little boy's peeking out the door. Anyway, so I was like, why did he change all the figures? He's still, I'm still at the same price, monthly payment that I was told I was going to be at, but why are all the prices different? So I started doing the numbers myself, and I pulled out a calculator, and I figured out what my payment would be on the purchase price of the car with the $18,500 trade that we agreed to. And lo and behold, my monthly payment was not going to be $469 to $479 a month. It was going to be $419 a month. So he hit me for an extra $60 a month. He lied to me and told me my payment was going to be $60 more than it was, to make it look like I was getting a deal on the other things at only $10 a month. But in reality, I was paying an extra $70 a month. So I was pissed off. So what did I do? I jumped in my car and I went back the next day, and I went into the showroom. I went in and I talked to the sales manager, and I was like, listen, I am really unhappy about what you guys just did to me. And they were like, oh, whoa, slow down. And me and the manager had a little bit of a spat, and the manager started getting loud with me, and he started swearing at me. And then we got into a screaming and yelling match in the middle of the showroom floor. It was like top of our lungs. People were looking at us like, oh my God, I thought they were going to call the police. It got so loud. So as we were in the middle of that, the actual sales guy that I was dealing with, who I felt was a nice kid, he was young and he was reasonable. He came over and he calmed, of all people, the 20-year-old kid come over and he calmed the situation down. We went back into the finance office. I sat down with the finance guy, the same guy that knew all my, all the people we had in common from growing up in the same town. And he's like, fine. I was like, take the truck back, roll my Silverado back around. I'll take it somewhere else and I'll make a deal somewhere else. And he was like, if that's what you want, that's what we'll do. Or I can just back out of this deal and we'll recalculate it and we'll send you on your way with none of the extra stuff. So that's what we did. So I said, fine, let's do that. I'll keep the truck. Let's take off all the extras. So sure enough, my payment ends up being $430 or $429. And it was about $10 more than it should have been with the trade value and the sale price we'd agreed upon and all that. So I'm like looking at it, and he has on the new agreement, we're redoing the agreement now, right? So the new agreement, he has $18,000 trade value. And I'm like, you agreed to $18,500. And he says, no, I didn't. And I'm like, yeah, you did. And I was like, he was like, can you prove that? And I'm like, well, you guys had a worksheet and you took the worksheet away after we made the deal and you shredded a bunch of stuff. I don't know where that is now, but I was like, look, I have the text messages on my phone. I was texting my wife in real time. 18.5, we agreed. He's like, that doesn't mean anything to me. We agreed on 18,000. And I'm like, I started thinking to myself, am I misremembering this? And my father-in-law was with me. He was sitting right next to me during the deal. And so I sent him a message and was like, did we agree to 18 or 18.5? And he's like, I don't remember. It was so late. And he's like, I don't remember. And I was like, you know what? I just want to be out of here. I want this. So I accepted the $18,000 trade. We reworked the deal. I felt like I was losing $500, but I just wanted to be done. So I left and I went home. Later that day, I'm going through the car and I'm putting my personal stuff into, and sure enough, in the glove compartment, I found the original worksheet with the price of the vehicle, what we agreed on, how much we agreed on the trade, everything right there in black and white with the sales manager and the finance manager's signature. So I call him back and I was like, hey, I found the original worksheet in the glove compartment. You did agree to $18,500. The sales manager told me to F off, hung up the phone. I tried to go back in. I wanted my $500. I tried to go back in. They refused to talk to me. And they kicked me out of the showroom. So I wasn't going to let it go. So I filed a complaint with the Attorney General in Massachusetts. The AG, their legal department sent the legal department at the car dealer. They went back and forth. Initially, they were like, tough luck, blah, blah, blah. I decided I wasn't going to let it go. So the AG said, well, he's not letting it go, and he's going to take you to small claims court. So a couple days later, they responded and said, listen, we're tired of this. We'll give the guy his $500, but we want him to sign an agreement saying that, because I had put up a bad review on online on like Google reviews, and I had wrote on Facebook. I'd done a couple reviews, just 1-star reviews, and I told what happened, and they were like, we'll give the guy his $500, but we want him to take down the negative reviews that he put up online, and both parties have to agree not to disparage the other party, blah, blah, blah. So that was my experience with buying my Honda Ridgeline. And now my wife and I are car shopping, and I'm remembering back to that. And I'm like, man, that was such a horrible experience. We don't even want to car shop after that. But she needs a new car. My daughter needs a car. So we are car shopping. And so the moral of the story, or the lesson of the story, is read the paperwork very clearly, very thoroughly. Don't trust the finance guy when he tells you what your payment's going to be. Sit down with a calculator and do the math. And when you're out making a car deal, make the deal excluding any of the upsells and upcharges that they're going to try to sell you, like the paint protection and the warranties and all that stuff. Put all of that stuff aside and tell them that you want to make the deal for the vehicle only before you even talk about any of that other stuff. So anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Say hi, Christian.
Hi.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But again, I love the Honda Ridgeline. It's been running flawlessly. It's a great car. And I wish I could tell you the dealer that I bought it from, but I can't, because if they see this, I could be in trouble, I suppose. But I'm not even sure if this video is violating the agreement, but I'm not disclosing anybody or anything that would identify anyone. So I think that it's okay to put this up. Cross my fingers that I don't get in trouble. Anyway, thanks for watching. Catch you on the next video. Christian, what should they do?
They should like, subscribe, share.
Like, subscribe, and share. See you on the next video.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.